Welcome everybody. In case you didn't hear our ghostly friend there, it's me, Steve-O, and I'm one of your hosts for the Quantum Nerdcore podcast. Joining us today are Lewis.
Hey guys, glad to be back.
Our Irish lad Sean.
Top of the morning into ya.
And Donnell, or what we think is Donnell.
The thing with the mask on.
How's it going, everybody?
I don't know. Donnell comes back. Last week he was a Green Lantern. Now he's Scarecrow. I mean, we got quite the character over here.
Yes, he's playing both sides of the field for DC Comics right now.
At least he's staying within the same universe.
It's true. I just jump around. As you can see, my mustache is fighting me. So, well, let's get right to it, man. How's everybody's week going so far?
So far, so good, man. Can't even complain. Was having some issues with Comcast earlier, but looks like we got that all taken care of, so we can keep it going.
Yep, absolutely. That's it. Anywho,
mustache.
Yeah, the mustache had to go. Sorry, bud. Try it out again this week. So yeah, wow. Well, it's Halloween week, I guess, over here at the Quantum Nerdcore podcast, and a lot of fun news this week, it seems. Starting with the most recent. I mean, we're gonna get into the different stuff, but did you guys hear that the Kinect has actually officially been discontinued by Microsoft?
Yes, I heard that. I saw the news earlier today, and I went, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah, I mean, I guess unfortunately, it was a good piece of technology that just never really took off, even though it was a powerful piece of hardware. Sadly, it just, I don't know. I guess they couldn't make anything more than like what do you call them? The on-rails shooters or things that just don't. Didn't really appeal to most people.
I don't think the problem with the Kinect was that they couldn't make good product. It's that it became just a. I'm trying to think of the best word for it. It was just a gimmick that just never went anywhere. The only reason why the PlayStation Move wasn't discontinued is because they finally found something to pair it with that made sense. It has a VR headset now, so now you can actually use it with the VR headset. Where the Kinect, if the HoloLens came out, or whatever VR headset that Microsoft is supposedly working on came out, it would work wonders with the Kinect. The problem is that they didn't have the correct technology to support it, let alone the software to support it as well.
What is the disembodied voice on your end think, Sean?
Virtual Boy! He's comparing it to Nintendo's biggest failure in the world.
All right. Virtual Boy. Wow, that takes me back. Yes, that wasn't exactly the best. I actually, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I actually liked Virtual Boy. I thought it was a lot of fun. At the time, what it was, I don't know if I couldn't have been more than, 10 or 12, and I think a friend of mine had it, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And now it's just like, wow. I don't think it ever had more than the launch games it came with. That's a true horror.
I think the biggest launch for the Virtual Boy was Mario Tennis.
Mario Tennis. There was another game, but I just can't remember it. I think, but Mario Tennis was the one that was a lot of fun. Nintendo, actually, that's probably Nintendo's first foray into virtual reality.
Yeah. Virtual reality headset that doesn't move, and you have to sit there hunched over whatever table you're at to use it.
Oh man, does anybody actually have one? I would love to still play one again.
No, the only person I know that had one was somebody at college, which was the teacher. It was a museum piece, and the last day of our class, he brought it in. And he's like, "Here, let me show you guys what the Virtual Boy was like." We all tried it on and went, "Oh my god, I'm going to be sick." The red lights just made it so nauseating.
Yeah, I mean, luckily though, yeah, PlayStation or Sony was able to really capitalize on what was a bomb in the Move controllers, because quite literally, I couldn't, you know me, I like to pick up just about every piece of hardware possible, and I couldn't justify that purchase to save my life, so I never picked it up, and I got them used at GameStop for like $20 each little stick for my PlayStation VR, which or at least for this season right now, is actually going to be a lot of fun, just because I really only happen to have a lot of hard-based games, like Until Dawn, Rush of Blood, and Resident Evil. So I'm actually thinking that I'm going to actually set that up for the Halloween party that's going to be over here. So some people will be dancing over in the living room. Other people will be right over here, getting scared witless in the foyer. Is that what you call it?
Yes, the foyer, the front of the house is usually.
I see Donnell, the foyer.
I feel fancier just hearing you use that word, the foyer.
I'm a classy dude, man. Now that I have these words to help me out.
It's like scuba.
So I guess moving forward, since we're talking about Nintendo, I mean, obviously the big deal with Nintendo this week, at least, is Super Mario Odyssey is coming out. First and foremost, I'll be frank, I am actually, for the first time in years, am hype about a Mario game. If you know me at all, I have been like a staunch supporter and then detractor of Nintendo because of just how poorly I feel that they treated the consumer with no third-party support. Their, what do you call them? Their consoles just really weren't, I guess, friendly for people like us that like to play all kinds of games, even though their first-party titles were phenomenal. However, I love it. Is that a cat Buki mask? I'm sorry, I got distracted by Donnell's.
Oh no, he's part of the Yonbu Black Ops.
Yes, sir.
I like that. Man, you're gonna be like wardrobe changing the whole night on Halloween, aren't you?
Hey, why not? Might as well, man. I mean, Halloween is all about having fun. Why not?
Absolutely. I love it. Jeez, I'm wondering if he's just going to keep switching face masks all night. This is going to be fun. But yeah, Mario Odyssey's coming out. I'm actually pretty hype about it. So far, early reviews are saying, of course, it's amazing because Nintendo really doesn't mess up on their first-party titles. So I'm excited about that. On this end, I actually started playing Fire Emblem Warriors and on the Switch. And I've got to say, it's better already than what I expected because it takes Fire Emblem settings, and characters, of course, and kind of meshes them in there with Dynasty Warriors. There's a strategy aspect to the Dynasty Warriors part where it looks like you can switch between different characters on the fly in different areas of the map. If anybody's ever played Dynasty Warriors, it's that, 1 versus hundreds on the screen at a time, beat them up, slash them all, brawler type. That, I think it was a Tecmo Koei or Bandai. Bandai has one of those two companies, whoever makes it, does it really well. It's a lot of fun. It can get a little bit droll over the course of time, but I like the fact that they've expanded their offerings to different universes. Like they did Hyrule Warriors for the Wii U, which I was really hoping would get ported over to the Switch. And then their first offering for Fire Emblem, I guess, was Fire Emblem Warriors. Besides that, last Nintendo piece of news is Animal Crossing for mobile. You guys hear about this?
I did. I actually saw some of the direct earlier today.
What do you guys play? Now, first of all, I guess a good question to ask Donnell and Lewis is, do you guys play any mobile games?
Yes, I'm stuck right now on Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. Haven't been able to stop playing it. It's a lot of fun.
It's an addiction,
I
sir.
normally don't play mobile games. So I'm surprised I've gotten so hooked on this one. But yeah, I've never played an Animal Crossing. My girlfriend has. She likes those types of games. Building a community, things like that. But honestly, I heard about the Connect that was happening. I thought it was exclusively for the Animal Crossing mobile, so I didn't check it out.
Okay. Donnell, what do you think? You a mobile game player or just not your thing?
I actually am. Normally, when I'm at work, my 9 to 5, pretending to be paying attention to meetings and stuff, I'm usually on it. Gotta admit, I gotta give my hats off to Lewis. I actually did download the Dragon Ball game, and I am actually getting into it.
Oh, whoa, okay. This is gonna get good. We got to start talking a little bit about this, about that on a later date. That's fantastic. So, what do you think? Animal Crossing. All right, I'll admit I've played Animal Crossing. I can see why it's so addictive to people, why people like it so much. I mean, it's like a little a cutesy city management game that has a lot to offer. But do you think you'll be playing it on your phone?
That I don't know. I mean, I played Animal Crossing way back in the days. I liked it. It didn't really grab me like a lot of other games. We'll see. I'll give it a shot. I'll definitely give it a shot. I'm just hoping that it doesn't get overhyped and kind of fizzle out into nothing like another Nintendo game that we're not going to mention, Pokemon Go. But yeah, I'm
still updating that.
Low, man. Those low blows. You know you were playing Pokemon Go like everybody else. Don't lie.
I never said I wasn't. I mean, I was a fan of it. I still jump on every now and then just to see.
You were going, walking around, hatching them egg.
The ghost in the
suspense.
The ghost in the background, I guess, thinks it was overhyped. I think it just had a rough start. You know what's funny is it's slowly been garnering back its audience little by little. It lost a lot of people. Hell, it's still on my phone, but I haven't opened it.
It definitely did. It definitely lost a lot of people. They are slowly and surely coming back because they're slowly adding things into it, but they still haven't delivered on what they promised, like player versus player or trading Pokemon or something. Like, it's still not there.
I think that
I guarantee you, once they launch it, it'll be back.
I think so. I think that's what everybody's waiting for, that real life Pokemon experience, which I've heard that they actually said pretty soon they will start. The PvP update is coming soon. They're like beta testing it or something like that, because they said I can imagine that's a pretty tough undertaking, to put that many people trying against each other. I mean, I would have probably gone with just like an ad hoc mode or Bluetooth Connect mode or something with that. But, hey, I'm actually glad it's still around. I really thought it was going to fizzle out and die. But I got to say, if Animal Crossing is in any way like the Fire Emblem Heroes or Super Mario Run, I mean, those games for mobile games have more polish than I've seen on games that you pay for. So, I'll probably give it a download to check it out, at least something to talk about and see how good and or bad it is. So,
Sounds good. I mean, with Super Mario Run, I mean, that was huge, and everybody downloaded and they were into it, and then, bam, if you want to continue playing, you got to pay.
Yes. I was one of those people that paid the $10. But you know what? I don't really regret it. It was actually a fun game, and every now and then I still open it up to kind of see if I can beat my score. It's really a kind of a neat way to do an endless runner. And like I said, it's very polished. I don't know how other way I can put it. It's very well done for the kind of game that it is. I haven't seen a single glitch in it so far. I mean, and they keep trying to add content to it, but until they add a whole nother mode or world, it's just gonna kind of stay there as one of those runners I pick up from time to time. So going forward, I guess today also something interesting came in my email, and I had to tell you guys about it because I thought it was really funny. Did you guys read about Amazon Key?
I
did hear about that today.
I was reading up on it just now, to see what the hell it was.
It's kind of interesting. Amazon's just really kind of throwing whatever they can at the wall and seeing if it sticks. Because Amazon Key, I mean, it's a neat idea. Don't get me wrong. In my old apartment, I think I would have appreciated it. But at the same time, I mean, it requires like a kit. Oh, let me explain actually further. First, Amazon Key is, I guess, a system that Amazon has that works with your home security with like a video cam and a special lock. Then I think the entry point from what I saw in the email is $250, and I think you also have to buy an accompanying like number padlock or something with a special code that
It's
encrypt.
like one of those smart locks that they've been selling, where basically
Yes.
you control it via your home Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or an app on your phone. And say if you have a guest coming over, rather than giving them an actual hard key, you can just give them a code. They hold their phone up to it, and you're in.
So yeah, and you know what? It seems like a pretty cool idea because the first thing I thought was, wow, that's going to be like you're just letting somebody into your home, for the break-in. However, I mean, obviously there's always going to be somebody that uses it for the wrong reasons. But I have to say that it is kind of ingenious because the reason that they give you the video cam with that little kit is so that you can see when they're at your door. They're supposed to verify that they're, I guess, a UPS employee or Amazon or FedEx or whoever it is. And it also videotapes them going into your house and then leaving, dropping off whatever box it is and leaving it, and even if you're not able to view it at the time, it can send you a video of what happened at the time. So kind of a neat idea. I'm not really hating on it. I don't know if I'll try it though. I'm just a little too skeptical about the human condition right now, for lack of a better term. I can't. Maybe I have trust issues, but I will say it's pretty ingenious. What do you think, Lewis? Considering,
yeah, I mean, I'm not crazy about the idea. I mean, it definitely sounds cool. The idea of letting somebody, like if you get a ton of packages or you're worried about things getting left at the door, maybe you don't live in the greatest of neighborhoods, and you're worried about packages being stolen. It's nice. Or maybe you order like a TV and you just say, hey, can you go in and put it inside? That way it's, it doesn't just sit outside, possibly get rained on or anything like that. It's a good idea, but I don't like that I'm letting somebody into the house. I mean, I'm not there. The dog is there. I have a dog, so the dog's there. He'll freak out. What if he runs outside? I mean, there's definitely some good things about it, and it's a progressively, it's a way of moving forward and being progressive, technologically speaking. But personally, I don't know if I would want anyone to go into my house. Honestly, they could. What if the employee got knocked out, and then they took their badge, they waved it up in front of the camera, and now all of your stuff's gone. It's there's a lot that could go wrong there. I mean, it's a cool feature, but it's something I don't find necessary for myself. So I'm not really on board with it. But it's if you plan on using Amazon a lot, have a lot of packages delivered, it's something that you could use.
Yeah, I do see the potential. Like I said, sadly, I see the potential for harm. But there's a lot of times I really wished. I hate having to go do the whole back and forth with the postman. They leave a little sticky on your door, then you don't know where your package is, and then sometimes if it doesn't get delivered, or you have to go 20 miles out to the UPS store or something and go pick it up, it's a hassle. So I can see the need that they were trying to fill. I just don't know if people are ready for that yet, considering the way that how easy it could be to do just that. Yeah, I mean, all it takes is somebody to impersonate the thing and send. I don't know all the details, so it could be it's way more. They've probably already thought about maybe already thought about what how to curtail any crime, because I mean, Amazon's not going to replenish everything in your home if somebody does rob you. So I mean, I'll see more about it, but I really thought it was interesting just because I love how sometimes technology just keeps going forward. And eventually, like I said, Amazon's the ones that have also said that they're testing out drones to drop stuff off at your house. I mean, same day delivery, that's pretty cool. I mean, I'd love to see it happen, but I don't know. We'll see it. We'll see as it develops, I guess.
That's one thing that you cannot discount about Amazon is that they are always trying something new to be on the cutting edge. And I appreciate that. It's just, sometimes you're going to get some hits and sometimes you're going to get some misses. And, I'll be interested to see if this is a miss, how long it takes for them to see, to realize that, because there could be people who just, like they live in the middle of nowhere and, they get the delivery and the last thing they want to do is have that postman come back or that guy come back because it'll take forever and it's easy for them to just drop it off. Like I could see it being a good thing. And it may, because there is potential, it could be a while before, if it doesn't work out, it gets cut off. So I would like to see that though, like see the progression of that, because it's honestly pretty amazing, and I could see in the future a something similar to this just being standard in the house. Like everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, eventually that's the way it's going. I mean, our friend actually, I think our buddy Dennis is already bleeding, in the bleeding edge. He's got the cool little video cams and stuff like that for his doorway. I mean, that's the way the world's going. So, I mean, it's cool to be bleeding edge. It doesn't, sometimes the world isn't ready for it yet. So we'll see if skepticism wins out, or if maybe they believe in the greater good of humanity, I guess, and we'll see if this becomes a hit. Speaking of Amazon, I guess, they've all got that. They keep also, like I said, innovating, coming up with new shows. I believe they've got like The Man in the High Castle and The Handmaid's Tale and stuff. Like I said, they're going into every aspect of the world pretty soon. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they got a lot of stuff in the works. But speaking of streaming services going forward, there's a couple new things coming out to Netflix, actually. I see Sean giggling over there. Is the ghost over there?
Quite a bit of noise over here on my side. I don't know if you guys are hearing it, but
no, not yet.
Quite a bit.
What does the ghost have to say?
Do you have anything to add to this current? He hasn't been listening.
Oh.
These ghosts. Yeah, they're not even doing their jobs. Pay attention.
You're supposed to be haunting him, not making him laugh.
Well, sometimes it just doesn't work.
But yeah, so about streaming services, I guess. Well, we finally got the reveal date for Netflix's Marvel, Netflix and Marvel Studios' The Punisher. I know that was probably supposed to come out sometime this month, but due to the unfortunate happenings in Las Vegas, they decided, which is in good taste, I feel, to postpone it. However, I'm excited because it's coming out, I believe, November 17th. So if you're a Punisher fan, I guess I think John Bernthal so far is probably the best Punisher we've seen, just in the brief glimpse that we saw of him in season 2 of Daredevil. So I wanted to touch on that because. What?
Ghost added insane, absolutely.
Yeah.
He likes this Punisher.
Yes,
I agree with you, Ghost. I agree with you. Like I'm
Punisher so far.
Looking forward to seeing how this character progresses. Like I loved his portrayal in season 2 of Daredevil. So I'm really looking forward to this. I want to see exactly how this is rolling.
Now I have a question for you guys. Now this is going to be an origin story, correct? So no. So
they're going to have flashbacks in it to his origin story, but it's not going to be the origin story. It's supposed to continue where it left off, where he left Daredevil season 2, but his backstory is supposed to be told in flashbacks, not actually just the backstory outright.
Good, because like I said, as with most media, I'm going in black, pitch black. So I didn't see the trailer. The only thing I saw glimpses through, scouring Reddit, and there was a little bit of backstory I saw, him with his wife and things. So that's the only little bit that I got of it, and I wanted to know, like, this is not going to be an origin story because I see his logo, on his chest, and I want to know because he didn't have that throughout Daredevil. So I wanted to make sure, like, all right, they aren't just skipping over that. They're going to at least go into it a little bit more.
I think that this is going to be a progression from season 2 of Daredevil, because, I mean, a lot of plot threads were dropped in season 2 of Daredevil. Some of them got finished in the Defenders, which surprisingly was, of all the Marvel shows, Netflix's least watched Marvel show. I figured it was going to be like the Avengers, where pretty much everyone with a Netflix account was going to go and tune in, just because you got to see, pretty much the closest thing you're going to get to New York's Avengers that doesn't include Spider-Man, and in the Defenders. I mean, I don't know if it was just because of the poor showing that Iron Fist gave, or the poor reviews, I guess I should say, even though, sadly, Iron Fist was the worst reviewed but the most seen. And I think that's just because I think that's the one everybody was waiting for. And I'm hoping that they build it up. It got a season 2. So Iron Fist he's getting a season 2. He's also showing up in Luke Cage season 2. So, I mean, the quick A-side, I guess, there. But with the Punisher, it looks like they're continuing the story, but they're also giving you exactly what happened to build upon it, giving you the flashback, flash forward, going. But what I liked that I read about it was that John Bernthal, the guy who's playing Frank Castle, said that he actually pushed for the character not to be heroic. He's not like because the Punisher. I mean, now mind you, I know that Dennis, who was on last week's episode, maybe might disagree with me, but the Punisher, I guess, gave up being a good person at that point. The minute he, I guess, kind of turned into the Punisher persona, where he was strictly about getting, vengeance and making sure he, I guess, killed as many bad guys as he could. So I kind of like that the actor himself is pushing for that. I don't want a redemption story. I wanted to show the grime and the grit and it looks like it's going to be pretty hardcore. So, I can understand he does good things, but in the end, he's still killing people to his point.
Well, that's the Punisher. The Punisher there is no redeeming the Punisher, because this is what he chose. Like every single comic I've seen, every single cartoon I've seen of him, the Punisher literally tells any hero that he's teamed up with, I'm going to kill the bad guy.
Borderline villain!
Unless you're going to stop me in some miraculous way, I'm going to kill him. As soon as we get to the bad guy, I will take the shot. Even if you don't want to, even if you don't want me to, even if you're going to subdue him in some way, I will take the shot, because that's how I roll. And he also takes the bullets for the heroes in the respect of, I'm allowed to be a borderline bad guy because I want justice, and my justice is vigilante. I'm going to kill you. I don't want you in jail because I know that's corrupt. I know you can get out. I know that the mob bosses can get out their cronies. I'm just going to kill the crony. That puts one less soldier on that side, and that's it. That's the Punisher. Punisher has no redeeming qualities at this point because that's who he is supposed to be.
Man at war!
It's true. He's an endless. Actually, the Ghost said it perfectly. He's pretty much in a war that's never going to end till he goes down. Very similar to Batman. Only difference is the Punisher has no scruples. But no scruples in the sense that he has his code, and I like the fact that he's willing to be the bad guy and he doesn't care what you think, and he's gonna get the job done. It's funny that the Punisher's comics have lasted this long, just because he usually ends up getting his man. So it's amazing that they keep coming up with more and more people for him to kill, I guess, in the comics.
Rogues Gallery!
Or all the Rogues Gallery, if you think about it logically. Any rogue is his gallery at this point. He just has to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a definitive answer to the crime problem. But speaking of the Punisher, in fact, I think they're upping his arsenal pretty soon. Just briefly touching upon the comics, on comic books, they've actually given the Punisher War Machine's armor.
Well, that was stupid.
Sounds fair.
That is literally like giving Kim Jong-un a nuclear warhead.
In the newest issues of the Punisher, or War Machine, I don't know what they're going to be calling it just yet. He is, I guess, part of a Black Ops team, or he is the Black Ops team with a suit of Iron Man's armor. Now, if you remember War Machine's armor, I mean, from the movies even, I mean, the guy has a Gatling gun, the size of Texas on his shoulder alone, much less like wrist-mounted rockets. I mean, good Lord, I think he's just going big on this next arc. And I, for one, as almost as silly as it is, because I've really appreciated the fact that with the Punisher, and I hope that they show this on the Netflix show, he is probably by far the most resourceful, I guess, anti-hero ever. His ruthlessness and resourcefulness is bar none the absolute best in the Marvel universe. Like, that guy is practically as unkillable as Wolverine, just because no matter what situation they put the character in, he finds amazing ways to survive. And yet they never really make him like jump the shark, you know, with all that. But yeah, I had to touch upon that because
what would be jumping the shark for the Punisher? Would that be giving him some sort of mutant powers?
You know what? They've done that. Speaking of, since we're in the Halloween theme, did anybody know that the Punisher at one point, at two different points in his comic book history, right? One, he was an angel. He was an angel, or he was a angel of vengeance, so to speak, because he was murdered, I think, by Wolverine. No, wrong time. He was killed, or something happened where he, I don't even know all the details, but I know that he had his trench coat. Was mystical in the sense that he could pull whatever weapon he wanted out of his trench coat with endless bullets and stuff.
I got a question here. So at some point in Marvel history, they went, well, we have the Spirit of Vengeance, the Ghost Rider. We need an Angel of Vengeance, the Punisher, because that makes sense.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I mean, they even did it in, like, I think an anime type format of like art style, and pretty much, yeah, he was just going around with like supernatural super weapons coming out of his coat. I mean, like, he was like one of those flashers, like you'll see in Vegas or in New York. It just opens his coat. Yeah, I mean, he would just pull out whatever he thought of, and it was angelic super weapons. So obviously that didn't last.
That's amazing and yet horrible, all at the same time.
Oh, it gets better. At one point, more recently than that, the Punisher was killed by Decan, Wolverine's son. And after that, he was somehow pieced together like Frankenstein's monster. Literally, the arc was called Frankencastle. Look it up. And he's literally been pieced together and stitched all to be the Punisher. And he was like a monster, literally like underground for a while. It was weird.
I'm all for keeping things fresh and new and revamping ideas, but Frankencastle, really?
Yep. I honestly, if I was able, I would unearth it from my comic collection, because I actually have a couple of those issues and I'd flash them in the camera. I almost want to see if I could just show you guys by sharing my screen, but it might take a little bit. But
I got one question. Did they come up with Frankencastle after the actor who played Punisher in the movie played Frankenstein in that action-y Frankenstein movie thingy?
You know, I never made the correlation.
Yeah, wouldn't have thought of it. You know, I
just say it. I mean, technically, that would be the Punisher if he was Frankenstein in a weird way.
You know what? Now I'm gonna have to look this up. Tune in, people. Next week we'll find out the answer to this. Oh, he brought it up. Yes.
That's horrible.
Oh dear God.
Castle. Let me see if I can find the Angel Punisher on my phone as well, because that's funny.
That's amazing.
Wow. Of course, leave it to Donnell. I was smarter than I was.
Cancel.
Look at this. Here we go. And then just to give you guys the Angel Punisher came right up. Here we go.
Oh my God. He looks like Constantine.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so see, and you see that little symbol on his head, like right there? It's kind of hard to see because it's a little blurry.
That kind of like little swirly thing
on that was like his angelic mark there. There you go. So you see the trench coat, and he just pull out weapons randomly for whatever task this was. I'm going to have to find out when what year this was and kind of get more insight.
98!
It was 98 apparently.
Oh my God!
I don't know where that
Got
came
a
from.
knowledge
The idea just
ghost
hit.
here.
This ghost is actually very helpful today on this podcast. This is fantastic. Also, I mean, well, going right into the comics thing, right? So, big announcement, I guess, from DC. You guys know Action Comics. Pretty much one of the first comic books that's, graced everybody. Action Comics #1 was Superman's, not first appearance, but one of his main appearances, if I'm not mistaken. No, Action Comics was probably his first appearance. So, he's Action Comics is now going to its 1,000th issue. If you can believe it, 1,000 issues. And I guess DC Comics is celebrating it by coming out with like an oversized special edition of Action Comics 1,000. And it's going to be a hardcover book that's $30.
The same amount of pages as a normal comic?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be way bigger, way more pages because it's going to have stories. I'm expecting there to be reprints, obviously, of classic Superman stories. But also probably new stories and anything, also there's a lot of stuff happening in the DC Comics universe, which I've talked about a little bit, which, it's kind of a cool set. I mean, $30 though is a little bit pricey, but the fact that it's a hardcover, I mean, that might make for some nice, I don't know, like a coffee table reading thing or a collector's edition.
Yeah, it'd be nice if maybe like for that 1,000th issue, they maybe do like a greatest of storylines and they boil it down to 2 or 3 pages and give you like a link of the comic numbers. So maybe you can say, hey, this is what happened. Tune in for the rest, and maybe give you something to work on. That would be really interesting. I would really appreciate that.
What do you think, Donnell? I know you're a big comic fan.
I am. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Just like a greatest of or all the greatest stories that ever showed up in Action Comics and just binding those in a hardcover and selling that. It'd kind of be like a nerdier version of Choose Your Own Adventure. You read it and then it says to be continued on in this book or this arc. Like, that's not a bad idea.
Didn't they do that like a couple of years ago with the Action Comics? Like when it was like at 500 or whatever, where they had a huge like anthology book that came out. I seem to remember this. It probably didn't include the comics. It probably had more storylines about DC and the Action Comics and whatnot. But I remember seeing the book at a couple of comic book shops. It was about maybe that thick. It had a hardcover, and the hardcover, if I remember correctly, was Action Comics 1 with Superman picking up the car. But as you flip through the book, it wasn't the comics.
The car.
It was more talking about DC, if I remember correctly.
Probably one of those DC anthologies that usually comes out, like those big old things that give you like the origins of all the characters and everything, But of course, Superman being the flagship. I mean, how big of Superman fans are you guys, though? I mean, I remember growing up, I was a huge Superman fan until I guess I grew up, and it got a little bit stale because at what point they made it so that Superman was pretty much like unbeatable. I mean, you'd have to really bring him out to space for him to even have any kind of a challenge. I mean,
even that wasn't a challenge for him. Like I used to watch Superman as a child because fantasy and whatnot. But me and my ghostly brother here were Marvel fans more than anything else. We grew up reading X-Men, Spider-Man, and whatnot. We knew of Batman, we knew of Superman, but out of all the DC characters, to me, currently, back in the day, I never went into the mythos of him, but currently, he doesn't have anything against him. Like at this point, to make Superman, I guess, somewhat interesting, he would have to become the villain that they make him in Injustice. Because that's the only thing. Because at this point, Superman is too powerful for everybody. Nobody can bring down Superman. Like his one weakness, kryptonite, he's overcome 1,000 different times. Like it's a weakness that's only convenient for the plot at the moment in time. He can still kick your ass even if you have kryptonite in your hand. Like that. Sorry. I just got censored. I am so sorry.
No worries, man. Keep going. You're fine.
So, but that's the problem with Superman is his one weakness isn't a weakness. Like at the end of the day,
Plot device.
exactly. It's Deus Machina to where we made this incredible character, this big blue Boy Scout who can't lose. And when he did lose, when it made the biggest media upset, where everybody was talking about it in the news, and DC came back into everybody's eyes in the public, Superman is dead. And then it went into this really stupid arc that went across like 5 different characters just to bring him back. I was like, really? Really? Like you and it wasn't like he came back because somebody performed a resurrection spell on him. He just happened to come back. That was the end of the story. There's a new Superman, he's in a black suit. Oh, he's the actual Superman. That was the entire explanation for the death and return of Superman.
What were you saying, Donnell?
I was saying I completely agreed with guy. Like, he died. It was this big, huge thing. You couldn't escape it. It was on the news. It was in the newspapers. The epitome of all superheroes. When you think of superheroes, Superman, Mr. I always overcome, triumph, blah, 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 blah. He's dead. And then they bring out Steel and the Eradicator and all of this stuff. And then Superman got a tan and he came back to life. Basically, sunlight resurrected him and he has long hair now. Great. That was it. There's the death of Superman.
So, yeah, I mean, touching on all that, you're right. I mean, and the thing is, it takes a really, really, I mean, you know, like I've probably said to you guys maybe before, is that no such thing as a bad character, just bad writing. And with Superman, Aquaman is a good character, Ghost. You just haven't. Aquaman just hasn't been given a fair shake for good writing for a while. Jeff Johns did a great job with Aquaman. I'll be touching on Aquaman in actually just a second, but with Superman, I guess it's so much better when you get a great writer who really kind of understands the character a little bit, or gives him things that are beyond his control. Like, for instance, I mean, you really can't, obviously at this point you can't really kill the guy, but you can put him in situations where him failing is almost worse than death, kind of thing, and it's getting to the point where they've especially nowadays in DC Rebirth, where they've gone with the character is they've kind of grounded him a little bit. They brought back, I mean, just to give you guys a small but short recap, they've given him a family. Now he's married, he's back being married to Lois. They got rid of the nonsense from the New 52.
So he's not with Wonder Woman.
No, that Superman, that particular Superman that was with Wonder Woman actually died, I guess, and got merged into this Superman, the original Superman that we all knew, the one that died by Doomsday's hands and all that other stuff, apparently was in a different, I guess, alternate universe, or one of the many 52 universes. And when that particular universe got eradicated, he stayed. It was some weird thing. Long story short, which I tend to say way too often, is Superman came back as the best version of himself, the one that brings hope, the one that's the always the do-gooder, the one that's righting wrongs as everywhere as best he can, an inspiration to all. And that's the Superman that we have currently in DC Rebirth. But now he's got his wife Lois and their son Jonathan. I mean, there's been other revelations recently leading up to the whole Superman Doomsday Clock deal that I spoke about. But Jor-El, his dad from Krypton, has actually recently come back in the comics somehow.
Did the son resurrect him too?
Yeah, somehow he's been resurrected. I'm not quite sure. There's a story going on called the Oz Effect. But nowadays, Superman is being written better because he's not only just the hero to all, the big blue Boy Scout. He's also he's also a dad and a husband again. So I think it adds a lot more depth to him, especially because of the fact that originally they even explained that he was in the New 52 universe the whole time, but staying secret because he wanted to give the Superman of that dimension his fair shake, let him do everything he needed to do along with the Justice League. It's a long, convoluted thing, but I mean, Jeff Johns is certainly doing his darndest to fix the many wrongs that the New 52 brought upon the DC universe.
So, I have a question. I'm a comic book nerd in the sense that I read up on the characters and stuff, but I don't actually go out and buy comic books. Why is it that Marvel and DC have the many worlds theory to like the nth degree? Why do they have the Uncanny X-Men, the X-Men Evolution, and then they have the 52? Then they have the regular universe. Then they have the Rebirth universe. Like, what is the I understand that you want to tell a certain story, but why can't they ever tell a story that interlocks together without being like a broken gear trying to mesh with a working gear?
Great question. But if you remember back in the day, way before we were even born, in the golden age of comics, Superman, Batman, the Justice League, and everything, they were constantly in like zany adventures that were, from Dimension 12, where, Batman had multiple clones, or Superman, got stuck in Bizarro universe and all that other stuff. And, I guess there was a lot less editorial control and less continuity back then, and I think that's what led to the whole multiverse thing, because also, if you have a certain sandbox, it's very difficult for you to step outside those boundaries unless it's an alternate universe. I mean, case in point, I think I've talked about it just about every podcast so far, but DC has an event right now called DC Metal, Batman Metal, whatever you want to call it, and it's essentially evil Batmen from alternate dimensions, all forming together to make their own Justice League of Evil. And I guess they found their way into the one main universe, And because of that, it makes for better storytelling, allows there to be, I guess...
I like that.
It allows there to be more room, more wiggle room where there is none, I'd say. And sometimes they integrate it, sometimes they don't. Like DC Metal is integrating with the main Rebirth universe as we speak. Whereas you could still have, like, there's a lot of hardcover novels now coming out, graphic novels, I believe called like Earth One, where they take creators, they famous creators and famous artists, they pair them together and they write what they believe would be a great origin for, Batman or Green Lantern or Superman or anybody. And, just it's a different spin, I guess. I couldn't tell you. But yeah, continuity stays, I guess, in the main universe. But, sometimes not everybody always wants to hear about the same tried and true. Or some people don't always know the 30, 40, 50, even 70 years of continuity enough to say, hey, and this is daunting. They say this is daunting for me. I can't pick this up, but this one-off story about a Batman in the Victorian era, that may resonate with some people. For instance, the DC cinematic universe, is not part of it. Whereas, and you can tell that some creators are influenced by the movies, and the movies influence the comics now. So they're trying to intermingle it a little bit, keep what works, throw away what doesn't. But going forward, did you guys also hear about Justice League? It's coming out the same day as The Punisher. And, Joss Whedon, a lot of different things have happened in production, which actually terrifies me about the movie. You've got, Zack Snyder, guy who directed 300, directed Batman vs. Superman, directed Watchmen. He's been...
Hang on. If we're putting Batman and Superman on the list of qualities, we got a problem.
I think that they're trying to shy away from the whole Martha debacle and the obscenely long running time. What was that?
Go ahead, go say it again.
Mama!
Awesome.
Okay. Touche. Yes, I don't know how again matching mothers' names correlates, and that we're not gonna get into that. That's a whole episode by itself. But I guess
when you think of Deus Ex Machina, that is the epitome. We have to figure out a way to make them love each other we're going to have their mother's names be the same.
But you know what? I think their mother's names were always the same. I just think it's really funny how that's the one thing that stops Batman from murdering Superman in cold blood.
True. It was that is the epitome of a Deus Ex Machina. We're written ourselves into a corner. How do we get out of it? Martha.
But it's just, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just had to put my hands up and be like, they could have done that a million different ways, especially because the worst part about that movie, that's it, I got into it. The worst part about that was the fact
I was going to say, like, no, let's not get into this.
I know, but come on, man. The whole movie, Superman was telling him, hey, listen, man, I'm not trying to fight you. If I wanted to fight you, you'd be dead already. That should be enough, for as logical a character as Batman is. At what point does he stop saying, like, I'm going to get him? No, I can't listen to reason. You're Kryptonite Spear, terrible Lex Luthor. Huzzah! I'm going to get you. No.
I'm so glad we had this tangent, but let's get back to the point that you made before we go really far off.
Yes, so thank you, because if not, I'm going to be there for a while.
Sorry.
And that is Justice League, like I said, now has, I guess, a new co-director or whatever you want to call it in Joss Whedon. And originally,
didn't he become the main director when Zack Snyder stepped away?
Yeah, Zack Snyder had like a personal tragedy, I believe, involving his daughter. Won't get into that. That really sucks. But
he stepped away for personal reasons, and he invited, if I remember correctly from the news report, he invited Joss Whedon to take over for him.
Yeah, and I mean the movie was already pretty much shot. So but it's amazing that originally the reports were that the runtime was almost 3 hours for Justice League. Yeah, it was almost 3 hours. I think it was like 2 hours and 49 minutes or 50-something minutes, something ridiculously long. But, I figured they were just trying to tell a really complete story, which I wouldn't have minded, especially if it's a good movie with enough action and plot. I don't mind a long movie. What I do mind, though, is what scares me, I guess I should say, is the fact that it's been cut down to about 2 hours. So if Joss Whedon went and thought to himself, hey, there's 50 minutes of film here I got to cut, you got to wonder how good the movie really was. Now, I really like Joss Whedon. I enjoyed him directing the first two Avengers flicks. He did a great job. But remember, this is a movie that was already shot and scripted and everything. And then they had to go back and do reshoots. And then it got further plagued by the fact that obviously Superman is in the movie. It's pretty plain to see. So he's going to be in there at some point, and they had to now use CG to get rid of Henry Cavill's mustache. Because apparently mustaches don't grow when you're dead. So I don't know how that's all going to go. But
hair does. Hair does. That's established in comic lore.
I see. So essentially, this is Superman, and this is Superman with CG. So there you go, plain and simple. So I mean, what do you guys think? Do you guys think? I know you guys haven't. Some of you haven't seen as many trailers. In fact, the final trailer I've stopped myself from seeing, thanks to you guys kind of saying, "Hey, look, you're keeping yourselves away from the spoilers," and it's true because the more I see of this movie, I mean, they're giving away pretty much most of the action sequences. I mean, what do you think? Do you think Justice League is going to be a good movie? Donnell, let's start with you.
All right. I got to say I'm going in cautiously optimistic. Like I've been burned in the past. I was hurt. I saw the trailers for Batman versus Superman, and I was like, yes! And then we got that.
And you went, no!
I mean, with this one, it's like, I'm looking forward to it. Especially with Joss coming in, taking over, doing a lot of reshoots, changing a little bit of the story. I'm a little worried about 50 minutes being cut out, but
even a minute.
I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. We'll see what happens.
Sean, what do you think?
Okay, so here's my take on everything that you just told us because I hadn't been keeping up with it. I think I've only seen like 2 trailers for it. One, if another director can come in and cut 50 minutes. That means that what Zack Snyder did was he did the Batman v Superman, where there's a lot of high action, and then there's a long stretch of oh my God, this is a trudge, to high action, and then, oh my God, this is a trudge, and then high action, oh my God, this is a trudge. So I'm assuming Josh Whedon took the trudging part and capstoned it, like just cut it down to where it made the point without being like, oh, we have to go into real time. Like, you know, this whole scene is supposed to take an hour. It's going to take that entire hour to do the scene in real time. I'm hoping that's what happened, where he just kind of cut the filler parts to where they actually hit their points instead of filler, there's the point of the filler, filler, there's the point, and then filler. I'm hoping that's what's going on. Now, the whole DC cinematic universe, out of all of the movies, I can say I liked Suicide Squad. It wasn't the greatest movie, but it was better than Batman.
It was fun!
As the Ghost would say. It was better than Batman versus Superman, where the plot actually tied together cohesively. Wonder Woman was amazing. So if they've learned anything, I'm hoping that it's at least close to Wonder Woman levels. If they haven't learned anything, I am expecting to see reviews all of it being, this is another Batman versus Superman. And I hope it's not. Like, I hope, beyond hope, that it's not. But I know that it based on all the news I've been reading recently, DC's starting to shy away from their own cinematic universe.
I've read that as well. What about you, Lewis? I know you haven't seen many trailers. You haven't done anything. I mean, I have to agree with Donnell. I'm cautiously optimistic. But, you know, I unfortunately, I also read a lot. And, you know, I'm, skeptical, but I'm hoping for the best. What about you?
I have no problem with cutting down a 3-hour length movie. I mean, I understand people, you pay $20 or $15 and you want to, go to the movies and really get your money's worth, but I do not want to sit in the movie theater for 3 hours.
It shouldn't be an all-day thing, in all honesty.
No, I do not want to sit in there for 3 hours. I don't care how good the movie is. 3 hours is way too much time. I could be doing something else. But 2 hours is great. I hope that it's like what Sean said, or a lot of the exposition is just cut and just get to the points and get what you want. I mean, like, that was what Avengers did so well. Like they cut a bunch of the fat and they gave you what you wanted in the fight scenes between big characters and things like that. That's what I want from this. I like some of the cast. I hope like the Flash pick and Wonder Woman and Batman. They seem to work nicely. Aquaman. I hope when I go into this movie, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised with how they gel. I have seen cuts again from Reddit, and I don't know where the movie is going. It seems really odd where they are. Like, if some of the settings, I don't know because, like I said, staying away. But I hope that this, they do take a page from, just Marvel and in terms of their team building or their team, meshing movie, and they don't make it overly long. Like 3 hours is way too much, and they cut it back and it just hits where you want and just stops there. Like, we already know there's gonna be multiple movies. Just find a nice stop point, stop it there, and then those 50 minutes you cut, they could be on special edition, the Blu-ray, or you can put them in the next movie for all I care. But just keep it condensed, keep it in a tight ball, not this. Keep it like this.
Like, true that. Awesome. So, I mean, going forward, I guess Halloween. Anybody?
1 second.
Sure.
My ghost friend would like to say something about our current conversation.
Waiting for Netflix.
That's his 2 cents. Continue.
Okay, so the ghost is actually not going to partake in the theaters. I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't. He's a ghost. You get in there for free.
They're free.
Yeah,
I mean, what it goes to do with their off time?
Enjoy the popcorn.
Not
That's true.
comfortable.
Awesome. So, real quick, I guess before we sign out, some relatively soon. You know what? It's Halloween. Anybody a particular fan or anybody's favorite? You know, what's the scariest movie you guys have probably ever seen? You know, I mean, obviously tis the season for that at least.
Movie, or are we allowed to talk about a game too?
Sure, movie and game, whatever you want. We'll start with you, Sean. What's a movie and or game that's probably your number one horrifying or scary, film / movie or both?
Well, when it comes to film, I never like watching horror films. Growing up with my vivid imagination just spelled murder for me and my family, because I would have
Red rum.
Yeah, pretty much. I was the type of child that if I had a nightmare, I was in my parents' bedroom because it would scare me that badly. And what's funny is most of the horror movies I saw as a little kid, I only saw snippets. Like when it was on TV, I only remember parts of it. I didn't even remember that Tim Curry was the clown, because the only parts I remember from the movie is the fight at the very end, which scared the crap out of me. But if I have to admit to one horror movie that actually gave me a phobia, it would have to be arachnophobia. Wasn't a horror, was a comedy. It scared the living shit out of me. I'm sorry for that.
It's all right.
That was my bad. But to this day, I will study up on spiders. I will stay away from them and make sure which spider I am dealing with before I even get close to it. I studied about brown recluses. I know what a black widow looks like and all this other stuff. I hate spiders. I like even the daddy long leg. I know they're harmless. It still creeps me out. So as a movie, Arachnophobia would probably be up there as a horror movie in my eyes.
Not watching that again.
Yeah, the ghost got arachnophobia from it too.
Fantastic. All right. Interesting. Any games that you remember being like a solid horror game?
So again, not one that usually plays horror games, and now that I'm older, none of this horror stuff actually bothers me. The only game that has actually gotten me, and the only reason why it got me is because I was in a room of friends that were getting got as well, was The Suffering. Playing The Suffering.
Oh and it's God, I remember that game. That game was awesome.
It was an awesome game, but its themes and its storytelling started creeping me out, because I was playing in a dark room. I had friends over. They wanted to watch me play, and all I hear from behind me is, "Oh my God, what's that? Oh my God, what's going on? What is that?" Oh! And I'm not the type of person to sit there and be like jittery, but I was sitting there playing and I'm like shaking. And I've been playing the game for like 4 hours at this point. And now that my friends are there getting scared behind me, I'm like, oh my God, I really don't want to go for it anymore. What's going on? Like it started creeping me out, because I had viewers going, but those are like the things that were cool to me. Like I've played a couple other horror games, but the only ones that actually stuck to me was The Suffering, because it was really well told and really well done.
That was a fun game, and actually, that's pretty funny. You were doing the Twitch stream before there was a Twitch stream with that game. The only difference is that the audience was right next to you.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny. Holy moly! I remember that was actually a great game. I'm surprised they haven't done a remaster or a remake of that one. That's a game I would love to see revisited, or even a sequel to. The Suffering was great. It even had like multiple endings in the end. What about you, Donnell? Any movies or games or both that
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm old school. Like I used to, not so much horror, but like suspense. Like I used to do the Alfred Hitchcock movies, like The Birds, or like the original Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. Like I used to love that stuff. Get me. I will give you that. It was meant to be a comedy suspense, but it did get me. Stephen King's It got me too. Like that, I still to this day do not like clowns at all. Like every single one of them, screw clowns. As for games, there weren't too many games that got me. I mean, I played Silent Hill, but the one that really got me, the original Resident Evil on the PlayStation.
All
Playing
right.
Was it the dogs? It had to be
the dogs and the birds in that hallway.
That one hallway. Everybody knows that hallway. You see the hallway, and everybody goes, "Oh yeah, I remember that." I hated that.
Yeah, everybody who's watching this stream right now who has played Resident Evil knows exactly which hallway I'm talking about.
Yes.
Like 50,000 times and nothing happens, and then boom. There is a
Yes.
But these are really the only ones, man.
That's like a shared memory from so many gamers and so many people. In fact, I've got an anecdote, but I'll tell it in just a second. What about you, Lewis?
I usually stay away from horror, not so much because I don't like it, or because I get scared, but because it's just not my cup of tea. The one movie that though it got me to the point where I shut down completely, don't watch it anymore. It may be dumb. Now looking back on it, it's dumb. It's a Leprechaun. I don't know if you guys remember those.
Wow.
I have yet to see that. I
Those
wanted to see that. I've seen bits and pieces of the other Leprechaun movies. I've never actually seen the original.
You're Irish. Isn't that like a crime?
No, because they're bad movies. They're like horrible movies.
I don't know what it was, but I got it was when I was younger, maybe less than 10. I would get that on. Somebody, my mom would be watching it, or my brother would be watching it, and I would go and take a look at and watch with them, and just seeing that little leprechaun's burnt face, it was just like, oh, I hated it. And then the way he would kill people and stuff, I could not deal with Leprechaun. There's been countless bad movies since then, but I've not watched any of them just because it scarred me for life, that one movie. And I've watched things like Exorcism and some of the more recent ones. Babadook I saw. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that one. It was a big movie on Netflix that was getting a lot of praise for being one of the scarier films of the years last year or 2 years ago. But they don't get me, but that Leprechaun scarred me for life, and I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. In terms of games, I don't go into horror as a genre, but I recently did play Until Dawn, and it wasn't so much the horror, but the gruesomeness of that. It put me off and made me stop, especially the scene with the brother that was tied up and got chainsawed. That made me stop. Not because it's scary per se, but it was so gruesome that I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna put this away for now.
You're not into the body horror, huh?
No.
Yeah.
I know he survives, but don't want to go back right now.
Gotcha. So, for instance, it's funny that you guys mentioned body horror. Okay, so I got three. I got my picks and then just small stories with each of them. One, I'm usually pretty good at guessing the endings of movies. I don't know. Everything's very predictable nowadays. So one of my favorite series, I don't know if it's a series or series, or it doesn't matter. Long story short, I say that way too much. Anyways, dang it, Kenny. This is what you do. You make me too aware of these things. Anywho, sorry, Kenny's a friend of ours. Mentioned something about the podcast. But Saw really made me a fan from the very first movie, simply because of the fact that usually with these movies, I can guess the ending. I can guess what's going to happen. I figure out the conflict, or I figure out the twist, and sometimes I've even accidentally been like, aha, that's it, in the middle of the theater, and people think they've either seen it before or I've spoiled it. Mind you, I don't do that nowadays, but usually I can guess what the ending is. But Saw was thrilling to me because, one, the death traps are pretty crazy. Death traps, they're pretty ingenious, And the ending of the first one, just I didn't see it coming, you know, and it was so ominous and so creepy and so, you know, terrifying that this guy by the end of the movie, he's pretty much got no choice but to hack off his leg because the key's gone down the drain to his lock, and the guy who would have had it, you know, was locked in there all along, you know, and then that whole ominous, you know, him getting up at the very end with the thrilling music coming in there and then just pretty much saying game over and just locking that up at the end left me like, wow. I mean, it was such an interesting twist to me. I just didn't see it coming, and it all made sense. Mind you, I've seen all of the Saw movies, so yes, I'm going to see the new Jigsaw movie that's coming out around Halloween. And but for me, yeah, I'd say Saw was the one that I really just enjoyed, because although not every sequel to it was good, you know, I would probably say 1, 3, 4, and 5, or maybe even 6 were probably decent. After that, you know, the other ones. 2 wasn't even supposed to be part of the series, as a fun fact. 2 was another movie that got bought by that same studio because they wanted to push out a sequel as fast as they could, and it was an identical type of movie. You know, they were just a clone, and then they just re-tagged it and somehow fit it into the lore of Saw. Anywho, the movie that actually got me the most, the movie that scared the pants off of me, and this is when I was actually older, just because if you're Hispanic or, you know, or African American, usually in the culture, you know better than to mess with anything having to do with like demons and angels and God and stuff like that. You don't mess with it. You just don't. It's just part of the culture. And The Exorcist. I went and saw that movie probably when I just started dating or just started going out, you know, driving my car. And I remember that I used to wear a gold chain, a little gold chain with a cross on it. And I had just finished watching. My mother went and told me, don't go see that movie that's, you know, it's, you know, anti-God or anti-whatever, you know, and you're like, oh, Mom, not a big deal. But the same night I finished watching it, I watched the director's cut, which had all the crazy stuff where the girl goes upside down and backwards like a spider down the stairs, and she's vomiting in people's faces, and she's sticking to walls and stabbing herself with a cross. I mean, that stuff was a bit much, you know, and it's amazing that movie got made, I think, even before we were born, and it was that gruesome. Nowadays, I think nothing like that's going to come out because people are just too PC, but what really scared me was coming home that night, and I walked into my house, and it looks like everybody had gone out to dinner. And the minute I stepped foot in this pitch black house, I don't know how and I don't know why to this day, the lights weren't coming on. And I step into my house, and my chain with the cross on it falls off of my neck into my hand while I'm walking into this pitch black house. I immediately turned back around, got out of the house, and waited like a punk. Literally got punked by myself. Waited outside of my house on the doorstep where there was light. So if something was going to come and get me, I had to see it coming.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was terrifying because, of course, of all things, I'm holding a religious item and it just falls off of me. And this was a brand new chain at the time. So it was pretty terrifying. I was actually legitimately spooked. I'm not even ashamed to say it, because that movie is to this day still pretty damn scary. And lastly, you know, when it comes to games, horror games, I love horror games. I like playing them quite a bit. They don't really bug me. I actually enjoy looking for ones that really kind of surprise me. So, you know, story-wise, Silent Hill 2 takes the cake. It is an amazing game. I'm hoping that we'll get a PS4 or Xbox One version of it. I'll play that game again. It had tons of endings. Just a great story. I'm not even going to get into it because that's another podcast in and of itself. Awesome game. But to harken back to what Donnell was saying, Resident Evil 2 got me. Resident Evil 2, right when I got my PlayStation, I mean, it's one of my favorite games. I'm actually really looking forward to the remake that's coming. And what was funny about it was also a scene where I was walking through the police station as Leon, you know, and it's another corridor, same as in Resident Evil 1. And I remember I thought I'm gonna get in the mode. It's almost near Halloween. I was under the covers. The lights were off, and I'm walking him down a hallway, and he's facing you, coming towards you. And all of a sudden, the bloody dogs come out, and they burst through in there. And I was just so in it. And so I freaked out and thought that, like, literally, like, the dogs had just come at me. And I went out of sheer, like, fright, like, you know, startled. I jumped up and I slammed my hand into the PlayStation and turned it off. And I was like, I hadn't saved. So I literally lost.
True horror.
And that was like a good hour or two in.
Manifest.
Yeah, true horror in the sense that I thought it meant, I don't know what it was, but just on instinct, I slammed into the PlayStation. And you know how those big old buttons on the front of it? I just hit the power button. I was like, no, that's it. I'm done. No more. I'm out. Like, literally chickened out. Like, the first night I got it, I was so hyped, and I was so disappointed afterwards because I hadn't saved at all, because I was trying to go for one of those runs where you save as little as possible. So I didn't get back to it until like another 2 days later because but that's my Halloween video game and movie stories. Besides that, I guess we're going to end on that note. And
Watch Cabin in the Woods.
The ghost says watch Cabin in the Woods. You know what? I haven't seen it, so I will probably go and do just that. Well, for all of us at the Quantum Nerd Core podcast, have a happy and safe Halloween, all of you viewers out there. And as always, this has been another Nerd Culture production. See you next time.
Have a good one, guys.